Senior advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Femi Falana, has filed a suit against the Nigerian Army, its Chief of Army Staff and the Attorney General of the Federation, praying for an order to stop the planned kick-off of the Nigerian Army's Operation Positive Identification. The senior advocate had, in a letter published on the 27th of October, stated that the decision of the authorities of the Nigerian Army to subject law-abiding citizens to personal identification on the roads constitutes a gross infringement of their constitutionally guaranteed fundamental rights to freedom of movement and dignity. Is he right in his assertions, though? What options are there to explore in the fight against terror? What if the terrorists themselves possess an identification? What then for the army? Data feeds are coming through in one place simultaneously on all our social media platforms, channelstv.com and on youtube.com/channels web. You can follow us right now on m.channelstv.com and on Facebook as well. We got all our platforms on social media covered. Tweet at Gimba Umar CTV. Use the hashtag State of the Nation. Let's get your thoughts in. President Muhammadu Buhari has said that the ruling of the Supreme Court dismissing the appeal brought before them by Atiku Abubakar and his party, the PDP, has offered the country the right to move on. President Buhari, who is away in Saudi Arabia for the Future Investments Initiative Conference, was quoted in a statement by his senior special assistant on media and publicity, Garba Shehu, stressing that the victory has been settled since February 2019. What does the Supreme Court's quashing of the Atiku appeal mean to the country and indeed the PDP? We'll analyze both statements from President Buhari and Alhaji Atiku Abubakar in just a moment. It's prime time here in Lagos, and this is State of the Nation. Welcome everyone in Nigeria and the rest of the world. I am Gimba Umar and this is State of the Nation. Expectations from the PDP were almost at fever pitch in the hope that the Supreme Court will hear Atiku Abubakar's appeal challenging the victory of President Muhammadu Buhari in the February presidential polls. That expectation fell flat to a point that the Supreme Court says it will give reasons to its decision at a later date. To analyze this further, I'm being joined by Ken Okolobo, the secretary to the PDP campaign for the Bayelsa governorship elections. He joins me here in the studios. At some point, we'll also have Yakini Nabina, the deputy national publicity secretary of the APC. He will join us via Skype from Bayelsa to look at the situations and analyze it for us. I want to thank you so much indeed, Ken, for coming on State of the Nation at this time. Your party is the one aggrieved in this instance. The president, in his words, said that the ruling of the Supreme Court dismissing the appeal brought before them by Atiku Abubakar and his party, your party, the PDP, has afforded the country the right to move on. Having explored all legal avenues to the extent of the Supreme Court, the president is right, isn't he?
But, well, you had the Chief Judge of the Federation just about less than 2 weeks ago said they are prone to mistakes. That's the end of the road. But you see, what I found a bit strange is, we haven't heard their reasons, but what I found a bit strange was because, you know, you have Justice Mary Odili and Justice Sylvester Nguta. These are leading members of the Supreme Court in terms of hierarchy. And in all the electoral petitions that the Supreme Court has dealt with, we have never had a situation whereby the senior members, the 7 senior members in order of hierarchy, were not part of that panel. And so I wondered why they were not made part of that panel. I am not trying to question the decisions of the Supreme Court. But then again, I'm also looking at the point where the CUPP made a statement and the Supreme Court reacted to it and said they had not set up a panel. And lo and behold, they said they have been studying this judgment for 2 weeks.
There's a coalition of United Political Parties.
That is right. And how do you study a judgment for 2 weeks when you have not put up a panel together? And so if you've studied this judgment for 2 weeks, that means you know the panel already. And so, well, there's nothing we can do about it. We need to move on. This is the final court. You heard what Atiku Abubakar said. But I need to be clarified on those 2 grey issues. It's very key.
Okay, but this is what Atiku said, if I may just remind you. He said that he fought a good fight and will not relent for Nigeria and democracy. How broad is this statement in your view when he says that he will not relent, that word especially?
That means he's not broken. That's what it basically means. You see, my only worry here is that we need to work on our electoral act. You see, section 285, subsection 9 says you will go to court. You must go to court if you're an aspirant or a political party within 14 days of when an action happens. And that same section 285 of the Constitution, which was amended, subsection 14, says the only person that is affected are the political parties and the aspirants. And section 31.5 of the Electoral Act says anybody who sees an infraction can go to court. But what is the Supreme Court doing now? The Supreme Court tells you that, look, you should give it a broader interpretation. They don't amend the law. They interpret the law. And so they're forcing lawyers to withdraw their cases in the Supreme Court because they're saying, look, we know there is a lacuna, but go on, we can't hear it. Because if you can deny political parties and aspirants, why do you allow anybody go to court? So what it means now is that if there's any infraction, if I find any infraction within the affidavit you have submitted, that's your form CF001 to INEC, I can't even go to court. These technicalities are the things we're kicking about. We do not allow technicalities deny people of justice. That's exactly what we're trying to say.
Well, we're still waiting to get Nabina Yakini connected of the APC from Bayelsa State. Let me still pry further on these issues because it seems to be a very dicey one at the moment now, the judgment, of course, of the Supreme Court. Now, this is another quote from Atiku Abubakar, the presidential candidate in the elections. He said that in a democracy, you need a strong judiciary, a free press, and an impartial electoral umpire. Nigeria has none of those three elements as at today. One man, one woman, one youth, one vote should be the only way to make gains in a democracy. And when that is thwarted, the clock starts to tick. That's what he says. So in all of this, one will wonder that we have democracy in place in this country. As a matter of fact, he was one of the pioneers who instituted it in 1999. Does it make sense that he gives out a statement like this?
Well, if you look at it from the broader perspective, maybe because what they would have done is they would have given us those reasons. The fact that those reasons were not given to us, and those reasons I actually pointed out, left a lot of people to question what were the decisions of the Supreme Court. Maybe they did not react to the Conference of United Political Parties, their statement, we won't be bothered. But since they reacted to that statement and said they had not set up the panel, and suddenly we found out that this panel has not only been set up, but they had reviewed and had worked on all the submissions within 2 weeks, and they had already reached the decision. I don't fault that, but they should have let the whole world know who the members of the panel were. And the fact that 2 senior members of the panel were not allowed to be part of that panel, 2 senior members, ranking members of the Supreme Court, it did leave a lot to be desired. And I think that's exactly what Atiku means when he tries to say that the judiciary is not being given that level playing field in terms of allowing it do his work. But you can't question the Supreme Court. That's the truth. We have to wait for their reasons.
Okay, let's get to Nabina Yakini. I understand that he's online now. Many thanks indeed for joining us. We've been trying to get across to you since the show started. But let me get your thoughts on this. Ken Okolobo has really dissected some of the statements that were made by the president in which he said that this ruling by the Supreme Court now gives Nigeria the ease to move on. That's what he says. What's your interpretation of President Buhari's statement when he said that? Mr. Yakini, can you hear me?
You see? Yeah, I can hear you.
Go ahead.
For me, I think at this point, Atiku and PDP, they should understand that the people themselves have decided that they need APC to remain in power because of what they are doing. In the election, you see what really happened. That the people came out to vote. Not the man Atiku and PDP did in Dubai, thinking to resource ahead of the election. So at this point, they fought a good fight, or at least it was a good fight, but at the end of it, we've seen it all. So all they need to do is to go back to the drawing board, because at this point, you cannot fall the Supreme Court. So go back to their drawing board and do the needful. That is, if Atiku itself is still interested, or PDP themselves, they have to go back to the drawing board.
Interesting.
Because they don't have any other offer Nigeria.
Your voice is a little muffled there, but I believe that our technicians are trying to get it as clear as possible, considering the weather conditions. But let's talk about Bayelsa a bit, since both of you are interested parties. MEND, that's the Movement for the Emancipation of the Niger Delta, has backed David Leon of the APC, your candidate in these elections coming up on November the 16th. But the leader of MEND, Henry Oka, is in South Africa in jail now. How serious should this be taken by the police, INEC, indeed, all interested parties in these elections? Nabina?
Let me say this. Men, we keep hearing Oka is giving a command from, from South Africa. Come on. What I'm saying now is that, look, the state needs a change, just like what Nigeria has done. So the state, men or no men, the people are going to vote. The people themselves need a change. For the past 7 years plus, can you believe in the streets of Yenegua there is no common street light? There is no light. The light you can see in Bayelsa State, Yenegua, is only in the government house. How can you say you're a governor, you want people, and you put them in the middle of poverty completely, 100%, and you are not forming new camps. When you go to the Toro Road, the governor's place, you will see how what he's doing is good. The Duapo, he has created a police unit for himself, which is called Duapo. And also, when you go there, you will see also a military base in his community there. And as I'm talking to you, the governor and his deputy chief of staff, they are now cloning cards that they want to use. Let me tell you one thing. This state has been under the rule of PDP. And PDP has this is for INEC, for INEC to know. PDP has all the cards. Even the last presidential election we came for, it was so difficult that our people don't have their cards to go and vote because you cannot use the temporary card to vote. So
let me come in here because you've talked about cloning of cards, which is a capital offence according to INEC. Where did you get that information from? Do you have proof that cards are being cloned?
Yes, I have proof because the cards are called the code name they call them is called Biafra cards. The cards have a code name called Biafra cards. If they say they want to see the deputy chief of staff to the to the governor, APC and Brown, has some of those cards. If they want to do, let them come and let us go and meet them.
Are you saying that the APC does not need the support of MEND now that Henry Oka has ordered his boys that they should give full support to your candidate in this race, David Leon?
Let me put it this way. When you say support is where you come out to vote. You can this time around you don't run with ballot boxes. So when they say they want men to come, that men will mobilize their people to vote, and that is the only way you can vote with your PVC.
Let me come to you, Ken Okolobo. Some of the assertions that Mr. Nabina made, some of which he talked about how MEND is calling on his boys to give support to the APC candidate. That puts you at crossroads, really, and you may stand the chance of losing these elections, considering the influence that MEND has in Bayelsa and indeed the South region of this country.
That's supposed to be the deputy chairman of the publicity committee. Not even the publicity committee, that's the deputy chairman of publicity for the APC. He should be ashamed of himself that he did not denounce the statement of Henry Oka, a man that is serving a time in jail because he tried to kill President Jonathan. Is that the kind of statement he should come on this studio and did not denounce it immediately? I thought that was what he should have done. He should have denounced it immediately. You could see that yesterday we had a debate in Bayelsa. Their candidate, David Leon, absconded because he could not stand our candidate. When you go to the market, you should sell a product. I expected him to be talking about the product he wants to sell. We are talking about a senator who has been a commissioner of Youth and Sports. He has been a member of the House of Reps, and now he's a serving senator.
But that gives him the pedigree.
The truth, that's a pedigree, because you could see that everywhere he has served, the time he served as a Commissioner of Youth and Sports was when they won the Premier League, the Ocean Boys. And that should tell you the kind of executive experience is going to come to bear. And now he served at the House of Reps, and now he's serving as a senator. Let him tell me the pedigree that David Leon is parading. What they only tell us is that who grammar help. That's exactly what they have on the back of their T-shirts. To already demeaning and giving us the impression that their candidate comes with huge mediocrity. What is he talking about here? He's talking about cloning of cards, when men is already saying that they're backing their candidates, and he's not in this studio on a national television program, he's not denouncing it. Tell me, if you're to judge, who is going to be the architect of violence in terms of November 16th? We have talked about Nembe. We have talked about the displaced people of Nembe that they have refused to allow to come back. Most of them have the sympathy for the PDP. If a sitting governor, who is the chief security officer of the state, is crying that he should allow those who have been displaced to go back, does that not tell you that he's being suffocated?
Let's get the response from Mr. Nabina. Mr. Nabina, you've heard what Mr. Okologbo has said. What's your response?
The PDP man, you see, they are still living in the past. That is the problem they have. You know, the situation we have now in Bayelsa State is not about, it's something, what you are looking for is what the people will benefit. Dixon, I was asked of rep, he came and he brought poverty to the people. Like I said, ask him, is there light in the street of Yenegua apart from government house? What is democracy? So even the people themselves, they cannot benefit from democracy. Asking when last, even the local government, when last did they pay them their salary? Now that even their candidate himself agreed in the debate that the present government is not doing anything compared to what the flood. If you come to Bayelsa, everywhere is flooded. So you are now blaming federal government for flood, that you cannot provide drainage to the sea or the canals. So you are seeing, even the Doyedri himself, so Doyedri agreed that the present governor himself, his boss, Dixon, is not doing what he's supposed to do. So is that the kind of candidate Bayelsa would vote for? Bayelsa needs a change. Bayelsa is somebody who the people...
If I may just come inside here, just to be able to get some questions across to Mr. Okologbo with me here in the studio. Now, Kingdom Blessing is a chieftain of the APC party. He was on the show last Friday, and he called your party, the PDP, a sham party. He cited that in 2 occasions, and also said that the projects, including the airports, that no plane I'm quoting him now, that no plane has ever landed on, according to him. The major road through the state is in ruins. If after 20 years of democracy, under the rule of the PDP, this is what Bayelsa has to offer, what then would you say the people of Bayelsa State should do? Should they still trust the PDP to vote for you? You know,
APC, they're stewing in their lies, and that's the problem. The airports, the pictures are all over. That's one of the best airports you have in the country. There was a test run flight, and everybody saw that test run flight. The governor welcomed the test run flight. And the fact that the runway has not been fenced and the fan has been frustrating a lot of the efforts of that independent airport. That is why that airport is not functional. He said it was a sham. He's lying because the pictures are all over. I can show the pictures if you want me to show the pictures. Enough proof that our airport is completed. You know, the funny thing about it is that the stadium is completed. The stadium is one of the world-class stadiums. And interestingly, the man that is behind that stadium project does not support Dixon. But he clearly told me that, look, in terms of infrastructural development, you cannot fault Dixon. He said it openly to me, and he's not hiding it on Facebook. And so you see the problem they have is that they are believing their own lies because they brought a candidate without a pedigree, a candidate that does not have... You can imagine them imposing this candidate over Henikin Lokpo-Biri, a man who has been a speaker, a senator and a minister, no, and you bring someone who does not have any pedigree, who just... What primaries? The primaries that they impose...
I'm not holding brief for the APC, but this is the primaries, and then we have the candidate that emerged.
No, he knows exactly what they did.
Okay, let's get the views of Mr. Nabina. You've heard what you've said, but I'm wondering also that if your candidate who spoke on this show, Mr. Kingdom Blessing, last week, talked about this very airport and some of the infrastructure, which he says are sham projects to the people of Bayelsa State. What can you tell us now? What, in your view, what are you bringing to the table this time if you say that your party and your candidate are going to make the difference?
Okay, thank you very much. Now, let me first of all ask him a question. The governor himself has been traveling to Abuja all the time. The governor himself, Dixon, has been traveling to Abuja all the time. Why? Why has he not used even a PJ, a private plane to land after he did all your ceremony, commissioning and all that? After that day, has any plane landed in that airport that he spent over 60 billion naira to construct? That is one. First of all, our candidate himself will make sure the people themselves will benefit what is called democracy. First of all, you must pay the workers their salary. People that leave their house in the morning and go to work, at the end of the month, you mean you cannot pay them their salary? What kind of government are you? But you can pay, you can get about, look at now, as I'm talking to you, the governor himself is moving around with a paper for political appointees. If he sees you on the road, you say you are put to confirm from the street of Yenegua if I'm lying. I'm here. So I'm saying it myself. It's not that anybody, it's not them say, PDP, we all know, is people deceive people. So we believe the grassroots, they will benefit from it.
Okay, because we're out of time, let me just get your closing moments very quickly, Mr. Okolobo. How do you see these elections panning out in Bayelsa?
No, it's he just accepted that it was commissioned. So those just tell you that, like I said, they're stewing in their own lives. The elections will be won by the PDP, but what also calling on the international community to look at the flashpoints, Southern Ijaw, Nimbe, Brass, and even Ogbia, where the former president comes from. Those are the flashpoints. They need to look at those places very critically. I must thank you so much indeed for talking to us, Ken Okolobo, Secretary to the PDP campaign for the Bayelsa governorship elections, as well as Yakini Nabina, Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the APC. Thank you both, gentlemen, for talking to us on State of the Nation and analysing those situations for both the presidential Supreme Court judgment as well as the elections we're expecting on November 16th in Bayelsa State and by extension, of course, Kogi State. Many thanks to you as well for being a part of the show. I'm Gimba Umar and this is State of the Nation.